On December 31st, 1987, Ronald Reagan was preparing to spend his last 3 weeks in office as the President of the United States. A new car cost about $7,500, and the gasoline you'd purchase to put in it cost about 70 cents per gallon. Michael Jordan had not yet won his first NBA championship, and Faye Black's precious baby boy, Marcus Norris, had just turned 16 years old 3 weeks earlier. Faye and Marcus lived in a small apartment which connected to the office of the Palomino Motel located on Summer Avenue in Memphis, Tennessee, where Faye was employed as the resident manager. Business had been slow during the holidays, and Faye had only one room to clean. But on this day she was suffering from a terrible toothache, so her only child, Marcus, volunteered to strip the bed and launder the sheets and towels. He had no way of knowing that by trying to be a good son, by helping his mother with her chores, he was sealing his own fate. Marcus had less than 2 hours left to live. The motel dryer, located in a laundry room near the rear of a breezeway, malfunctioned frequently before completing a cycle. It required manual restarting. In order to listen to the dryer to know when to restart it, Marcus remained in the breezeway. To pass the time, he played with a BB pistol he had been given 6 days earlier as a Christmas gift. He shot at empty cans, and though no gunshots had been heard and no other people were anywhere near him, a girl across the street waiting for a bus saw Marcus and reported to the police that she saw a black man with a gun. Memphis police officer John Dolan was dispatched to the motel. Minutes after his arrival, he pulled out his service-issued shotgun and fired one shot. Marcus fell mortally wounded. The cover-up began immediately. Dolan would later claim that Marcus had walked towards him, coming out of the breezeway, ignoring his commands to stop, throw down his gun, and raise his hands, when he suddenly and inexplicably pulled the gun and aimed it at him. The officer claimed that he had to fire in self-defense. But Faye Black told quite a different story. She had noticed the officer pull into the parking lot from her vantage point in the motel office. She saw him sitting in the car for several minutes, first thinking that he was there responding to an automobile accident which had occurred just minutes earlier. But when he did not get out of the car for quite some time, she came out of the motel to find out what was happening. She identified herself to him as the motel manager. She said Marcus was her son and that the gun that he had was only a toy. Dolan turned to her and told her to shut the fuck up. She watched her son throw down the BB pistol to the ground, raise his hands, and then be shot to death. Here's how the incident was reported on the evening news.
Police say around 2 this afternoon, 16-year-old Marcus Norris was shooting pop cans with a pellet gun in the motel's parking lot. A woman waiting nearby in the rain for a bus saw the teenager walking around the motel's parking lot with the gun in his hand. Thinking there was a robbery, the woman ran next door to Joe Steinbeck's beauty shop.
And she come running in the shop. She said, "There's a man over there at the motel and he's got a gun. I'm afraid he's going to kill someone." I said, "Well, I'll call the police."
The call went out to the police as a robbery. Officer John Dolan responded. Deputy Chief Fred Warner says Dolan thought the pellet gun in Norris's hand was real, and he told the teenager several times to put it down.
Of course, with the weather conditions and looking at the weapon itself lying on the ground there, you can't tell whether it's a pellet pistol or a real weapon.
Officer Dolan told investigators instead of putting the gun down, the boy pointed it at him. Dolan fired his gun. The blast hit Norris in the chest, and he fell to the ground. The 16-year-old was taken to Baptist East Hospital, where he died about a half hour later. Norris lived at the Palomino Motel. His mother, Faye Black, shown here in blue sweatpants, is a manager at the motel. Mike Patel, the motel's owner, seen here talking to police, told me off-camera that Marcus Norris was a quiet, happy teenager who occasionally did odd jobs for him. He said Norris's pellet gun, seen here beside his clothes, was a present he got several days ago for Christmas.
Notice Dolan's demonstration of what he claimed Marcus did to provoke the shooting. This demonstration would eventually expose the falsity of Dolan's account. Here's what Ms. Black said she saw.
My son was not bothering anybody. So he told him to take the gun out and throw it on the ground. And I said, "Mark," I said, "just take the gun out, baby, and just throw it, throw it out the way." He got the gun just like this here and threw it over on that side. He said, "Keep your hands up, son," so, and Mark's hands was up like this here. And he didn't know what was happening. He said it was just a BB gun. You know, and I was saying the same thing. And after he had his hands up, he shot him. Just shot him.
Ms. Black says her son was a threat to no one and insists Officer Dolan knew that from the vantage point of his squad car.
He sat there for the longest, watching him shoot that BB gun with those cans, so he knew that it wasn't a real gun. Why didn't he get out then and confront him?
Though Faye Black was an eyewitness to the shooting death of her son, police interviewed her only once, and then for less than 5 minutes, while she sat outside the emergency room at the hospital where her son had died. Fearing that the incident would simply be covered up, she pressed on for an indictment of Dolan, and eventually one was handed down. 1 month later, she retained me to file suit on her behalf.
I'm going to do everything within my power. You know, I know it's not going to bring my son back, but I'm going to get some kind of peace of mind out of it.
I traveled to Memphis from my hometown in Detroit to observe the trial. Each day I saw the propaganda circus as police officers, a group of old ladies, and Dolan's family were paraded in front of television cameras showing their unwavering support of the officer without concerning themselves with what the evidence showed. They sought to discredit Ms. Black's testimony, not because of any objective reason to do so, but rather because, after all, what sort of mother would raise her son in a motel? But as I observed the trial, I saw that the prosecutor put in a good case, but not good enough to overcome the overwhelming and palpable bias in favor of the police officer, despite clear evidence that he was lying. Dolan was acquitted. The most important thing I saw, however, was that the physical evidence could prove that he was lying and could be used in a way that the prosecutors had not thought of doing. The day after Dolan was acquitted, I filed suit against him and the city of Memphis. The first thing we accomplished in the context of that suit was to obtain an order preventing the city of Memphis and the Shelby County criminal clerk from discarding or destroying the physical evidence. Among the things which the court ordered to have saved were the jacket, the pullover sweater, and the slacks worn by Marcus. Dolan's shotgun and a panel of the outside wall of the motel were also part of that order. I knew that these items would conclusively prove that Marcus's hands were raised as his mother had said. I brought in experts from Texas, Florida, and Michigan to examine the evidence, to review the autopsy report, to visit the motel grounds, and to review the statements of Ms. Black and John Dolan. They all concluded that Dolan's account could not possibly be true, as it defied the laws of physics, and that the same physical evidence which negated Dolan's story fully corroborated Ms. Black's account. So why is this case still being litigated 19 years later? Please watch part 2 of this report.